We live in interesting times. Today's stories: shooting outside a bakery in Toronto. Ottawa resident tested positive for COVID-19 after notification from COVID-19 Alert app. BC introduces fines to those not complying with COVID-19 regulations. In BC, a COVID-19 outbreak at Surrey Memorial Hospital. China resumes direct international flights to Beijing. End of World War II commemorated in Hawaii and virtually amid the pandemic. In sports, Canadian NBA Hall of Famer Stephen Nash is appointed as the new head coach of Brooklyn Nets. And Pelicans' Brandon Ingram wins NBA Most Improved Player Award. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News International from Canada. I'm Kat Joy reporting in from Calgary, Alberta, bringing you stories from across the globe. In Toronto, a group of people suffer injuries after gun shooting outside a bakery. Eagle News correspondent Sabrina Solano de los Reyes reports.
On Wednesday, September 2nd, 6 people were injured after multiple suspects opened fire outside a bakery in Toronto. According to Toronto police, a group of people was standing outside Spence's Bakery on Eglinton Avenue and Allen Road when a dark SUV vehicle drove by and started shooting at them. All 6 victims suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The number of suspects involved is still unknown. Mayor John Tory made a comment about this incident in the beginning of his press conference that same Wednesday. Take a look.
This kind of gun violence is absolutely unacceptable. Firing a gun into a crowded bakery is incredibly dangerous. It is reckless. It demonstrates an absolute disregard for human life. And so in that sense, we're just going to have to continue and redouble our efforts to fight this kind of violence.
Because of this brazen shooting, discussions on gun violence, gun laws, and police reform are once again brought up. Mayor Tory made a comment on advocating for bail regulations and modernizing police services.
We have advocated for real change to gun laws and to bail laws, just to pick 2 examples. There are still far too many illegal guns out there, and repeat gun offenders are still allowed to be out on bail when, based on their own records, they should be kept in custody. We're working to modernize our police service and to bring about real change to address systemic racism, to rebuild trust with communities, and to make sure that our service is even more focused on violent crime and that some responsibilities better handled by others are reallocated elsewhere.
The mayor also gave details on how Toronto police are responding to gun violence in the city.
Our acting chief has outlined to the police board, of which I am a member, a new plan that he's implementing now, which includes reallocating specific resources to help get at guns and gangs and gun violence. A good portion of this gun activity is in fact gang-related and is also related in turn to drugs, to gun trafficking, and to human trafficking.
Mayor Tory further discussed the effects of gun violence to individual people and the city as a whole.
And make no mistake, this is a tragedy. Every person shot in our city is a tragedy. The hurt and the pain and the anguish caused by gun violence to people in our city and to communities in our city is real, and it has been inflicted on far, far too many people.
As of Wednesday evening, according to Toronto police, 5 of the victims have already been released from the hospital, and the 6th is still yet to be discharged. In Toronto, Sabrina Solano de los Reyes, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
An Ottawa resident tested positive for COVID-19 after being alerted to a close contact with a confirmed case through the COVID Alert app. Here is Eagle News correspondent André Lajoie with a report.
A Ottawa resident tested positive for the COVID-19 after being alerted to a close contact with a confirmed case through the COVID-19 Alert app. Medical officer in health, Dr. Vera Hitch, shared the story during a media availability with reporters on Wednesday, saying it highlights the importance of using the app to help limit the spread of COVID-19. Dr. Hedge says the individual received a notification through a COVID alert app that they were in close contact with a confirmed case of COVID-19. That individual presented for a testing and tested positive for COVID-19. This is useful, says Dr. Hesh. The more people that download the COVID-19 app, the better, says Dr. Hesh. It will help us. The larger percentage of population that use the app, says Dr. Hesh, the COVID-19 app was downloaded more than 2.2 million times at the first month after its launch. Health Canada says Ottawa only 110 people who tested positive for COVID-19 entered the information into the app to notify others of possible exposure to novel coronavirus. However, last week, the Quebec government announced that it would not implement the use of such application on its territory. He believes that this tool is not useful since the measures already in place have helped to contain and spread the virus, says the government of Quebec. This is André Lajoie with Eagle News in Ottawa, Canada. We live in interesting times.
In British Columbia, the government is introducing stricter measures to enforce COVID-19 regulations. Eagle News correspondent Vanessa De La Cruz has the details.
Last week, BC introduced fines for people who are not compliant with the COVID-19 regulations. Mike Farnworth has said that 10 violation tickets were issued between August 21 and August 28, including 6 $2,000 fines against party organisers and fines for 4 individuals worth $200 each. The $2,000 fines are for businesses, owners, or event organisers breaking provincial health orders on gatherings, as seen by Mike Farnworth.
The province is enabling police and other enforcement officers to issue $2,000 violation tickets to owners or organisers for contraventions of the provincial health officer's order on gatherings and events. This includes violations such as hosting or organising a gathering or event in excess of 50 people, not keeping a list and contact information of everyone who attends an event, or hosting more than 5 guests gathered in vacation accommodation, such as an Airbnb.
Officers are also allowed to ticket individuals $200 if they do not follow the direction of the police or staff at events.
To this end, police and other enforcement officers will be able to issue $200 violation tickets for anyone actively encouraging large gathering or events or refusing to leave or disperse when directed to do so, and $200 violation tickets for those refusing to follow the safe operating plans of businesses or anyone who engages in bullying or abusive behavior towards employees.
With the rise of cases across the province, enforcement is needed, as seen in the total $13,000 fines that were handed out in the first week for some businesses in Surrey, Richmond, and House Party in Victoria. I'm Vanessa De La Cruz in Victoria, BC. Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
In Surrey, British Columbia, enhanced precautions have been implemented at the Surrey Memorial Hospital after a patient tested positive for COVID-19. Eagle News correspondent Arnie Aquino reports.
After a patient tested positive for the COVID-19 at Surrey Memorial Hospital, a memo was sent to hospital staff to inform them of the outbreak. The hospital also has implemented enhanced precautions due to the outbreak. The outbreak happened at the nephrology unit, which will now be temporarily closed to admissions and visitors. The rest of the hospital remains open. According to Hospital Executive Director Martha Cloutier and Site Medical Director Dr. Rob McDermott, enhanced precautions were implemented immediately as well as contact tracing. There is no impact to any other areas of the hospital, the staff memo says. In Vancouver, Arnie Aquino, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The first international flight in more than 5 months landed in China's capital, with passengers greeted by airport staff in full hazmat suits as ban on foreign arrivals in Beijing eased. Chinese aviation authorities are allowing arrivals in Beijing under intense COVID-19 safety rules from Thailand, Cambodia, Pakistan, Greece, Denmark, Austria, Sweden, and Canada, countries deemed low risk for cross-border infections. Travelers arriving in China need to show a negative coronavirus test before boarding and are subjected to centralized quarantine on arrival for 14 days, along with 2 more tests, officials said this week. CCTV says the number of passengers on direct international flights to Beijing is capped at 500 per day during a trial period. Since late March, Beijing-bound international flights have been diverted to other Chinese cities, where passengers are screened for coronavirus and quarantined. 11 cases were reported Thursday in China, where the coronavirus first emerged late last year. Health officials said they were all imported. China remains wary of risk of an influx of cases from other countries now that its local outbreaks have been largely brought under control. Most foreigners are still forbidden entry into the country. Coming up, end of World War II commemorated in Hawaii and virtually amid the pandemic. In sports, Canadian NBA Hall of Famer Stephen Nash is appointed as the new head of coach of Brooklyn Nets. And Pelicans' Brandon Ingram wins NBA Most Improved Player award. Eagle News International continues after this.
Sa September 5, Sabado at September 6, Linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali at alas 9 ng gabi ay muli nating mapapanood ang mas pinalawak at mas pinalaking talent competition on Philippine television and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2! Muling samahan ang ating mga hurado na humanap ng mga Pilipinong may natatanging galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Abangan ang kanilang performances na magpapayanig at magbibigay ng kulay sa ating TNG stage. Dito lang yan sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Dito lang sa Net25. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is co-presented by Cooper, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical, also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Our sponsors, BDO, We Find Ways. JRC Industrial Sales, RS Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Robus Builders, Chris Raff Enterprises, Victory Carpentry, DOP Asiatic Pest Control Services, and AUB Aspire for the Future. In partnership with New Era University ETF, Expanded Tertiary Education, Equivalency and Accreditation Program. Embrace Cafe, we embrace differently abled persons.
Kickoff. Goals, goals, goals. The best part of soccer. We let you relive the most thrilling moments. The ultimate best goals compilation of the last season. Just sit back and enjoy. Kickoff.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News International from Canada. I'm Kat Joy from Calgary, Alberta. September 2nd marks the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. A memorable yet scaled-down ceremony took place in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where dignitaries of no more than 50 included surviving war veterans, Governor David Ige, and Navy Admiral Philip Davidson of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. But it was the keynote speaker's remarks that our Eagle News Hawaii correspondent Mio Asenas highlights in her report.
It is fitting that we are gathered here today on USS Missouri, where the conflict in the Pacific came to an end on this day in 1945. This ship, which was built for war, has since been dedicated to peace and reconciliation. It now rests in the very harbor where more than 2,400 Americans paid the ultimate price nearly 8 decades ago at the beginning of World War II.
Days before the actual ceremony, organizers hosted a Legacy of Peace aerial parade, wherein combat airplanes of different shapes and sizes used in World War II flew several times around the island of Oahu. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the event itself had to be scaled down by invitation only, while others had to join in virtually via live stream. The event began promptly at 9:02 a.m., which was the actual time that Japan formally surrendered to the Allies in a ceremony that ended the deadliest conflict in human history. The destroyer USS Michael Murphy rendered honors as she sailed by the Missouri and Arizona Memorial, which marked the beginning of America's involvement in World War II. Defense Secretary and keynote speaker Mark T. Esper described the long-term effects of the war and the role that the United States had to take on to prevent such a war from happening again.
In the aftermath of World War II, the United States assumed the mantle and the responsibility of leadership, recognizing that the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans would no longer protect us from conflicts started abroad, from ideologies with hegemonic ambitions, or from governments with malign intentions. It was America's time to lead, and we did so, guided by our founding principles and core values. The United States rose to the challenge. We built relationships with like-minded nations based on reciprocal trade, not predatory economics, based on respect for the sovereignty of all countries, not a strategy of might makes right, based on a commitment to always honoring our international obligations, not just when they serve our interests, and most importantly, based on our enduring values and beliefs. From our alliances with Japan, South Korea, and Australia, to our long collaboration with ASEAN countries, India, New Zealand, and the Pacific Island countries. Growing, deepening, and unifying this network must remain central to our collective strategy to ensure peace and prosperity for another 75 years and beyond. We welcome every nation, especially those that have benefited most from today's international system, to join us in this effort. For decades, the United States and our partners have based our efforts on the belief that today's free and open order, however imperfect, is worth fighting for. And while this system has largely remained intact, we cannot take it for granted or leave its future up to chance. That is why, together, we are committed to improving it and remain ready to defend it, much like the greatest generation did when history called and fate challenged.
Finally, the Secretary thanked all the veterans for their service and sacrifice in defending the nation.
It is because of your selfless service and your sacrifice that we live in peace and prosperity today. And it is your legacy that inspires us in our efforts to uphold the freedoms and values for which you so nobly fought. Thank you all very much.
The end of World War II in Europe, also known as VE Day, will be commemorated in Washington, D.C. on September 25th. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Mio Asenas for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Now in sports, Canadian NBA Hall of Famer Stephen Nash has been appointed as the new head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. EBC sports correspondent Zurita Sese reports.
With the first-round exit of the Brooklyn Nets at the hands of the Toronto Raptors, Brooklyn's search for a new head coach began almost immediately after their time in the Disney bubble. Various names were being thrown around as to who will take over as head coach, but it was recently confirmed that Canadian NBA Hall of Famer Steve Nash signed a 4-year contract with the Nets. This job was left vacant as the organization departed with Kenny Atkinson earlier this season. Atkinson served as head coach from 2016 to 2020 and led them to the playoffs during the 2018-19 season, only to be eliminated in the first round by the Philadelphia 76ers. Nets interim coach Jacques Vaughn will remain with the organization as the lead assistant coach on Nash's coaching staff. Despite the lack of coaching experience, Nash has a 19-year career under his belt, where he played alongside Shaquille O'Neal on the legendary Phoenix Suns, Dirk Nowitzki of the Dallas Mavericks, and recently the late Kobe Bryant and the LA Lakers. In addition to great mentors, Nash himself is a 2-time NBA League MVP and an 8-time All-Star. His success is also seen on the international stage, as Nash is a key contributor for Canada basketball, both as a player and part of the front office. Despite never winning a ring as a player, Nash's most current role as player development coach with the Golden State Warriors allowed him back-to-back rings in 2016 and 2017. Though many were surprised by the choice, Nash does have ties with Nets star Kevin Durant as they worked together during their time with the Warriors, and may be the reason for their reunion. With the likes of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on the team's roster, all eyes will be on this organization to see how this player-turned-coach can lead this team to a ring. From Toronto, Canada, Zarita Sese. Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
New Orleans Pelicans forward Brandon Ingram wins this year's NBA Most Improved Player Award. Here's EBC Sports reporter Tenny Somagi with the details.
After being traded from the Los Angeles Lakers as part of the Anthony Davis deal last summer, New Orleans Pelicans forward Brandon Ingram had a career-best season. The 23-year-old earned his first All-Star nod and became this year's NBA Most Improved Player, beating out Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks guard Luka Doncic.
When B.I. first got on campus in New Orleans in September, he was with some of the player development coaches, and I believe Jeff Bzdelik was there as well. And he told the coaches, "I believe I have greatness in me, and I want you to do anything you can to drag it out of me. Dog cuss me, work me too hard, do whatever you got to do, but I want to be great." And he dedicated himself to that in a way that I can't say I've ever really seen a player do, certainly not his age. And so it's our honor as a franchise to be represented by a human being that loves this the way that Brandon does, and frankly, loves the community of New Orleans and the communities from Kingston the way he does. This is as much about the human Brandon as it is the basketball player. So I'm just honored to be part of that. Thank you.
First, I think it starts from seeing my mom and dad work every single day to make sure everything was straight. I think they put me first before anything, whether they had it or not. And I seen my dad get like 2 hours of sleep each day, just waking up, going to the forklift plant, coming back home, taking a shower, going to the gym, maybe a referee some nights. But it was all to make sure that his family was straight. My mom has worked at her job for about 32 to 35 years now, so to see her put that dedication in and stick to what she was doing, definitely was just instilled in me. And of course, the injury that I just had, it just makes me want to not take things for granted. I knew that it wasn't an injury that would take me out for the long haul, but I knew it was something that would wake me up enough to tell me that I need to take advantage of everything while I have it.
Tune in to Eagle News for more stories and highlights from the NBA bubble. In New York, Tenny Somagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
We end our program today with some music. Here is Ira Reyes from Vancouver. She sings a tune made popular by Stevie Wonder. It's called Isn't She Lovely?
Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought through love would be making one as lovely as she. But isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she pretty, truly the angel's best? Boy, I'm so happy we have been heaven blessed. Can't believe what God has done through us is giving love to one. But isn't she lovely, made from love? Pa-da-da-da-da, pa-da-da-da-da-da, pa-da-da-da-da, pa-da-da-da-da, pa-da-da-da, isn't she lovely? Life and love are the same. Life is Asia, the meaning of her name. Long did good have not been done without you can see the one that's very lovely, made from love.
That's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook, facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I am Kat Joy. We live in interesting times.
The New Era University, in its 45th year of excellence, discipline, and service to humanity, will offer online education all levels beginning this first semester academic year 2020 to 2021 through the NEU Virtual Learning Environment, or NEU VLE. New Era University offers a complete basic education cycle from kindergarten up to senior high school, offering all strands. NEU has 18 colleges, and 2 graduate schools. It also offers ALS and ETM. Best of all, NEU has the most affordable tuition fees among private universities in the Philippines. NEU is at Quezon City, the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, General Santos City, South Cotabato, Lipa City, Batangas, and Pinugay, Baras, Rizal. New Era University is under the stewardship of Dr. Dilo L. Rosas. What are you waiting for? Be part of the new normal. Enroll now. Classes start on October 5, 2020.